Eh? All right. Very early, was built in 1757. At the time when the prisons were referred to as a holding pen, underline the words holding pen. Long before light bulbs was even invented. Today, after 268 years later, the United National Congress government, led by the Honorable Prime Minister, Ms. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, has taken the historical decision to decommission the Port of Spain prison. 268 years later, I am pleased to announce this. This facility has been reportedly condemned by courts as being unfit for housing prisoners and has cost the state millions of dollars in damages for breaches of the constitutional rights of persons. This facility is an eyesore. When you come into Trinidad and Tobago on arrival here and you go to the city, people take you to the prison. They often ask you, you have persons in there? And the answer is yes. Rather than continuing paying compensation to prisoners for breach of the constitutional rights by housing them in facilities that is subhuman and degrading, the government will save money and invest instead in a state-of-the-art prison facility, modernized, to assist in rehabilitation and restorative justice. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago instructed us to consult with persons in and around Port of Spain. And let me tell you this, we have the support of the Chamber and the business community in and around Port of Spain. This is long overdue. This will be done in four phases. When you look at it, the first phase will be, in fact, removing prisoners from Port of Spain to the maximum security prison in Aruca. Condemned persons and persons on remand. And we'll continue doing that until the prison is no more. A proper area considered real estate of high value is often degraded or downgraded by the presence of a prison in Port of Spain. This decision, again, was taken by the Honorable Prime Minister, Ms. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, when she came into office. Any questions? No, you can ask me if you want now. Let's go through it, or you want to ask questions after? All right, well then after?
We'll take questions after all
right,
members
take the questions after. All right.
Thank you, Minister Alexander. Keeping on the issue of national security, I'd like to invite the Minister of Defense, the Honorable Wayne Sturge, to join us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Cabinet has agreed to the procurement and acquisition of 25 police mobile units, which in essence, would house joint operations of both the police and the defense force. These mobile police units would comprise of 5 units, which are similar in size to 20-foot containers. And these units can sleep 4 to 8 officers, and a further 20 units, similar in dimension to 40-foot shipping containers, and these containers can sleep 6 to 12 officers. And these units are being constructed, and when constructed would be deployed with a view to enhancing police visibility and to strengthen the presence of law enforcement in communities nationwide. This project, this first 25, would facilitate swift strategic deployment, as these units would be strategically placed in certain places around the country so that we can monitor exits and traffic going into and out of various communities, so that when there is an incident such as a shooting or a burglary or a murder, the security services would be better placed to respond rapidly. This would obviously improve and enhance the detection of criminal activity, more particularly certain types of trafficking, and may very well amount to a deterrence. It facilitates the rapid response to incidents in communities we would not name now, but communities where, having regard to the data we have from the CAPA agency of the police service, we know that these are communities which are most in need of policing. It enables 24/7 monitoring, and it would also be used as a strategic tool to assist in border control. The first phase, we intend to use it to target specific areas where we see there's a growth in terms of a certain demographic, which a particular now designated terrorist entity dwells among. And this initiative would be with a view to eradicating the existence of members of this particular now designated terrorist group. So this is expected to be deployed in the coming months. We intend to have a project screening, and thereafter we'll have the procurement aspect of it, so that it will be competitive, although it's national security, but because it can be built locally and there are suppliers who can provide it, we will be looking to whoever is the entity best suited to construct. It's already designed in essence, but construct these units in a manner that is favorable to taxpayers' interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Sturge. We'd like now to shift to education. I'd like to invite the Minister of Education, Honorable Michael Dowlett, to speak to us this evening.
Good afternoon to members of the press and the viewing audience. I wanted to address the topic of introduction of police officers into schools. Presently, the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Ministry of National Security, Homeland Security, and the Tobago Police Service is across Trinidad and Tobago. And this is as part of a wider strategy to create safe and secure learning environments. The deployment plan is as follows. 2 police officers will be stationed in 50 secondary schools identified as priority institutions. 10 other secondary schools and 10 primary schools will benefit from dedicated police patrols to ensure consistent coverage and rapid response. And the reason behind this is that there has been rising incidents of indiscipline and violence in our schools. Recent years have seen increased reports of school violence, gang influence, and threats from external elements. And these trends threaten student safety and disrupt teaching and learning. In order to ensure safety in a changing environment, both in and outside of the school environment, schools must be protected against the full range of risk in our society today. So to meet this responsibility, police officers will be deployed in full operational kits, consistent with best international practice, to act as visible deterrents and to respond immediately should threats arise. And let's consider the international best practice. This approach mirrors successful models in countries such as the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, and Barbados, where school resource officers are dedicated police units form part of national strategies to safeguard students. So we're all about protecting our students and staff. And the presence of these trained officers will serve as both a deterrent to disruptive behavior and an immediate response mechanism to threats. And this will ensure that schools that were considered high risk will move towards becoming safe zones. We also include in the community police approach. Officers will not only provide security, but will also engage students, parents, and teachers in building trust, discipline, and mutual respect. This approach supports the existing approach to discipline in our schools. These officers will complement, not replace, existing discipline measures and guidance programs. In our schools, we have our principals who are responsible for the day-to-day management of the schools. Their responsibility is to supervise the physical safety of pupils, to ensure the discipline of schools, and to address student discipline in accordance with the National School Code of Conduct. In schools, we also have MTS officers, and they're the ones who control entry and exit protocols to all visitors, students, and staff. They will log and they will continue to fulfill their functions. They will log and maintain records of contractors, school assets, persons entering and exiting the compound. You have another layer of personnel in the school health, safety, and security officers. Normally, they're just referred to as safety officers. They are there to ensure that they implement a school safety and security plan, providing recommendations to the principal, conducting risk assessment, and identifying potential hazards, amongst the other duties. And so, our police officers will fulfill the role of school-oriented police officers. They will perform policing duties in accordance with the Police Service Act, Chapter 5901, and the Special Reserve Police Act, Chapter 5903, and relevant departmental orders. Their responsibility will be to ensure that they support all of the discipline measures in schools. So come Monday, when students arrive at school where we have police officers, students will be welcomed by a team, your MTS officers, your safety officers, your deans of discipline, and your school-oriented police officers. And all students will be greeted respectfully and in a professional manner. And if there's a need to search a student, there are protocols in place. If a weapon is found in a student's bag or on their person, the principal will be immediately notified, and the item will be secured safely by the MTS officer, the safety officer, or the school-oriented police officer. And then these school discipline measures will come in place. And so I want to say that as we go forward in schools, we are taking a zero tolerance on indiscipline, especially with violence, and all incidents will be treated with severity if weapons are involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dowlat. As the government continues to make great strides in national security, we're also making great strides in the area of sport. I'd like to invite the Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs, Honorable Philip Watts, to join us this evening.
Good afternoon to the members of the media and the listening and viewing public. This evening I have two announcements. One, the agreement to appoint Mr. Dwayne Bravo as an ambassador of sport for Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Dwayne Bravo has distinguished himself as one of Trinidad and Tobago's most celebrated sportsmen. He is internationally recognized as a premier cricketer, captain, and all-rounder, having represented the West Indies cricket team with distinction. In addition to his cricketing accomplishments, Mr. Bravo has also made significant cultural contributions through music and ambassadorship in promoting Trinidad and Tobago worldwide. Currently, Mr. Bravo is the head coach of the TKR team, and Mr. Bravo has also proven to be an international businessman who will bring much benefits to Trinidad and Tobago through this new role. Secondly, Cabinet has also agreed to approve the Citizenship of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago Amendment Bill 2025, and also agreed that the bill is to be introduced in Parliament at its earliest opportunity. The purpose of this bill is to amend the Citizenship of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago Act, Chapter 1.50, to provide the acquisition of citizenship of persons born outside of Trinidad and Tobago if his or her grandparent was a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and at the date of his or her birth. We believe that introducing the grandparent law, we will create a wider pool of athletes to tap into international athletes. Currently, for example, football, we have 211 footballing countries under FIFA. We are one of the 5 countries that do not use that particular grandparent law. What I will do now, I will ask the TTFA president to come and tell us exactly how this law will benefit the Trinidad and Tobago team.
Hi, good day all. Kieran Edwards, president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. Minister, before I explain the benefits of this law for football, I want to say that honored and privileged to be the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association when such a law is going to be amended for football, and not just football, but sport on the whole. When it relates to football, immediately we have some important games. The World Cup qualifying final round begins tomorrow, the 5th. We play against Curacao. Trinidad and Tobago is the only country in that group, with Curacao, Bermuda, and Jamaica, that do not utilize that law. So this would now give us that competitive edge again. We know that when you look at Jamaica, the population is twice our size, and then they draw from their diaspora. This would give us back a competitive edge when it comes to regional football. When it comes to our immediate games, with this law being changed, we can be able to utilize grandparentage players as soon as in this final round. This would open up over 20 players out of Europe, over 20 players out of America and Canada, where players have already reached out to us because of the discussion around the grandparent law and wanting to show interest in playing for Trinidad and Tobago, representing the country of their forefathers. So we want to really tap into the diaspora and utilize it, not just in football, but I think all sports across the board could benefit from this law being changed.
Okay, thank you. So track will also benefit immediately from this law. So with that, I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Minister Watts. So we now open the floor to questions from the members of the media.
My first question, of course, is the Minister of Homeland Security. Prisoners from the state prison. We already have a lot of issues because we are in the middle of an SOE, right, state of emergency. And the reason for that is communications from inside the prison to outside. So would we not be putting more stress into the maximum security prison? And what measures are there so we can contain any such communications again?
To answer the question, I know you might have grown accustomed to very little being done with respect to those institutions, but that will no longer be the case. We have seen, we have understood what is necessary at this time to have the prisons up and running in a manner which the prison officers can control the environment in which they are placed and where prisoners are placed. So, having said that, what I can say to you is that we intend to treat with the situation differently to what is accustomed, inclusive of getting the right and proper equipment to treat with the situation that presently exists at our nation's prisons.
So the scrummers and jammers are not working? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is this, some things need to be upgraded, yeah? Some things need to be replaced.
The hangings are still on our books, right? And the Prime Minister wants to start that back. Mm-hmm. The gallows is located in the Port of Spain prison. When you get a new prison, would a gallows also be built?
If men can move, so can equipment. So we'll move the gallows to the next location, size it up properly, have it measured in the manner which it's supposed to. So if it comes down to that, the gallows could be used for its intended purpose.
Do we have an idea where the new prison would be?
Well, for now, I told you in my conversation, we'll be moving persons to the maximum security prison.
No, I mean the new one to be built, and it's going to be a modernized.
Right, well, we'll bring that to you. And also, let me also say that the prison presently at the maximum security will be upgraded. All right? So after that, after a couple conversations with you, then you'll understand where we're going at. Some things we need to keep for ourselves, you know. We help you sometimes with information, but some things we keep yourself.
The whole issue about the sunken vessel, you know, 11 people on board. Mm-hmm. There are reports that they were part of the trend, the Aroga gang, and the trend, the Lano gang. Do we have reports of the operating in Trinidad and Tobago, and what are we doing to monitor them?
Of course, we had information long ago that they were here, and the police continue to target. The police continue to have investigations. The police continue to receive intelligence with respect to these persons. All right? Going as far as the immigration department, we often search to see what we could come up with respect to those persons. The Americans have the information, and we allow them to do their job.
Okay, good afternoon, Minister Ryan Hamilton Davis, Trinidad News Day. Going back onto the prisons, from what I understand, people in remand yard where they are held in Port of Spain, those are for people who were charged but not necessarily convicted of a crime. Maximum security is on the other end of that spectrum. Did you speak to the law association or any law bodies to get any kind of understanding of the ramifications of moving people who weren't convicted into an area where for people who are convicted?
Opinion before we make decisions. It's important to have a legal decision, a legal opinion before we make a decision.
Do you expect any pushback from the law association or any law bodies?
We don't expect any pushback. All we persons are talking about is thank God that somebody had the cojones to move the prison out of the Port of Spain area.
Okay, I'm moving on to the situation with the lethal strike. Now, it seems that there is a significantly growing number of U.S. vessels in Caribbean waters close to the Venezuelan border, and it seems that people are bringing up more and more questions about the actual purpose. Does the government still maintain its faith that this is for drug interdiction and it may not be a preclude for something else, like extraction or invasion?
You want the Minister of Defense to answer that?
Yeah, both of you could answer it.
Can you repeat the question?
Are you still confident that the vessels outside of the Venezuelan border, well, in Caribbean Sea, outside the Venezuelan border, are simply for interdiction of narco cartels? Or do you believe, are you working on a theory that it may be for extraction or further intervention into Venezuela itself?
I don't believe I should be commenting on the second part of your question, which you say is a theory. So I don't want to venture into the realm of conjecture and hypotheses. The short answer to the first part of your question is yes. We remain confident that
This is still about interdiction.
it is about interdiction. We have no basis for saying anything other than that.
Okay, let me just say something to you. You know, when all of us say we went to school in Trinidad and Tobago, and very early there was a conversation in the school domain that, listen, Trinidad is an island surrounded by water. Remember that? And then going further into that, there came a time when you would have learned that Trinidad and Tobago is a transshipment point for narcotics. So sometimes you hear persons asking questions and you wonder, like, where do you live? So if there's a transshipment point for narcotics and you're seeing on the nation streets the type of weapons, the drugs, and I just asked a colleague a short while ago, have you ever seen a drug addict? Have you ever communicated with that person? Have you seen them, their children, what it looks like? So when I hear people asking those questions, I wonder sometimes, where are we? Are you witnessing what is happening on our nation streets in terms of the type of firearm being used there? We do not manufacture firearms here, so they are coming in through some means. And if the intelligence of the United States said that it is coming from this angle, together with what intelligence that we have, then we should welcome that. Every citizen of this country should welcome that.
Excellent, sir. That brings me to my next question, and that's about the SOFA treaty. The previous government and governments before that had signed on to that treaty, and it allows for a military presence in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, given the passionate response that you gave there, with the intervention assistance on SOFA to activate SOCA in any in any way or means to have U.S. military into this island?
The short answer is no, not at this point.
Okay. And well, as far as the defense forces is concerned, given the heightened tensions, because there is tension, regardless of
there are tensions.
Yeah, there are tensions. Thank you. Yeah, there are tensions. Is the defense force going to be deployed in any enhanced state?
There's no basis for a deployment of our forces at this stage. Nothing has happened to warrant that. What took place in terms of the airstrike took place in international waters and in pursuance of one sovereign state pursuing their own interest against persons who are acting in a manner that is inimical to their interest. That has nothing to do with Trinidad and Tobago.
This question would have posed in previous post-cabinet press conference. Once again,
this question would have been posed. Yes.
The question coming up here in terms of the National Operations Center. Could you indicate whether the government intends to reactivate the National Operations Center? It was one of the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry into the 1990 coup. It was dismantled by the previous administration.
Yes. Yes.
How do you have a time frame? How soon, or do you have an idea of who might be leading this charge in terms of the director of the NOC?
The second question we are not at liberty to answer just yet. The timeline is not far away.
Is Gary Griffith one of the persons being considered? There has been some talk being bandied, speculation in public domain that he might be one of the persons being considered.
You're asking me to comment on what is speculated and Lackery and them say they say.
No, I said that is speculation. I'm asking if he's one of the persons.
No, your question was premised on speculation.
Yeah.
I can't comment on what other people are speculating or what opinions they might have.
To the Minister of Sport, while we do welcome the government's intervention in trying to amend the legislation to allow the Grandparent Act to facilitate access to players who are abroad who might be desirous of representing Trinidad and Tobago in various sport. The question is, what program is being implemented, perhaps even for the TTFA, to increase and improve the grassroots program so that we can build the volume of players emanating locally, which could assist in the ecosystem of sport, where sometimes these players, if they were to gain professional contracts abroad, there is some significant money that could be attained in Trinidad and Tobago by the various development clubs and so on, including by the TTFA.
Okay, so good question. So to answer the question, what we are currently doing at the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, we are developing grassroots programs. What you would have seen over the July-August vacation is that the ministry would have rolled out the Java cricket program. And this is where we are starting. We are going back down into the grassroots, into the country areas to find that pool of athletes with natural ability. So we are developing programs and policies currently to drive sport from the primary school level, then to the secondary school level, so that they flow all the way out into the international level, so we could create that better pool of athletes.
Good afternoon, Akash Samaru, Guardian Media. Minister Alexander, how many prisoners would be relocated from the Port of Spain prison to MSP Naruka?
While we want to give you an exact figure, we will want to hold on that until a further notice, because we want to give you the correct figure as to when it's taking place. Now, you will be informed when when that movement is taking place, or when the movement has taken place. It shouldn't be too far away from now. However, we don't want to give other information just yet.
Okay, well, how many in MSP right now in Aruca?
And we wouldn't want to give you that either just yet.
Okay, do you have the capacity at MSP in Aruca to facilitate the transference of those prisoners from Port of Spain?
Right. Having spoken to the Commissioner of Prisons, there's some room available at the new facility to have that done. All right, the MSP is a big area, you know, where it could take a lot of things, a lot of new infrastructure to treat it a lot of situations, and we probably will be looking at that, although there are some other areas that we have located, maybe with the intention of treating with it in terms of prison and prison facilities.
I have a question for Minister Daulat. Right, those police officers who would be deployed in schools, they will be armed, right? Just want to confirm that.
In full kit, as we said.
Full kit, including firearm armed, right?
Let me intercept my minister just a second. What I can tell you is this for sure: that those officers will be given non-lethal equipment that they can respond with in an effective manner.
Okay. So when asked directly, will they have guns or they won't have guns?
Well, again, non-lethal weapon that they can be able to carry out their duties effectively. Yeah?
So tell me what's the rationale for making sure that it's non-lethal weapons they have and not firearms?
No, the firearm is a tool of trade of a police officer, just like the coconut, the cutlass is that for the coconut vendor. All right? But there are certain times when you need to operate in a particular way to get the best. Because, I mean, you're treating with children, right? And that is what you all say. You all say that we treat them with children, you know. Some of them behave very strange, but at the end of the day, they are considered children under the law, right? So if they are considered children under the law, then they must be treated like children according to what the law says, all right? And we don't want to violate it. There are times it may become necessary to have the appropriate equipment there at the time to treat the situation. I hope I answered the question.
So, Dr. Daulat, it's almost like just ensuring it doesn't negatively affect their psyche. So there will be a police presence. We don't want them to be seeing police officers with guns around classrooms.
Well, what we're about is ensuring that we have safe and secure environments for the process of education to continue. And so there are not only threats inside schools, but some of the schools are located in areas where there are external threats. You all are out there in the media and you've seen it. In the last academic term, a schoolboy was shot outside St. Francois recently and things like that. So as the Minister of Homeland Security is saying, that the system is set up to be quite responsive to whatever situation occurs. And there will also be additional patrols around, some consistent patrols around certain schools to ensure that there's that quick response.
Yeah, the reason I asked a couple times about whether or not they would have firearms is I believe some stakeholders are of the belief that they would have been armed.
Well, sometimes the stakeholders might be misinformed. However, we want the best interests of the children at heart. That's what we're looking for. How do we provide that safety and security with our children in mind, looking at their education, where they are being educated, and the future. So there are times when the police will have to adapt to a situation that might need a level of stern confrontation. Then that will be addressed. So in other words, we have a system, as the minister said, that could adapt to any situation that confronts law enforcement.
Yeah, this would slipped my mind about the prison earlier, but you mentioned 4 phases, and then you kind of just detailed one. What are the other 3 phases?
The other phase is to move. I will give you something if you want at the end, but it's to move first of all to move the prisoners from the movement of prisoners from the Raymond Yard to the maximum security facility, relocate condemned prisoners from Port of Spain to the maximum security prison at Golden Grove, to absorb of the convicted prisoners from the Port of Spain to the maximum security prison Golden Grove, and Correra Islands Prisons Facility. As I told you a short while ago, there are some things that we are doing that we didn't want to discuss too much. So since that you asked, I will just share one of them with you, all right? And also the relocation or construction of a new gallows at the maximum security prison.
I just want to bring to your attention that DCP Junior Benjamin is one of those who would have said that the officers in the schools would have been armed to prevent armed attacks.
Right.
And that's why I was asking, because he's one of them as well who give us the impression they would be armed.
I could be armed with a pen. I could be armed with a ruler. I could be armed with lethal and non-lethal weapons. I could arm myself. It depends on what avenue you're taking.
Minister Watts, very quickly, what's going on with the Sport Company Board? When will that be constituted?
That board should be constituted very, very soon.
How soon? Because it's having an impact on some sports. Huh?
Before the end of this month.
For the end of the month? Okay. With respect to, you mentioned Dwayne Bravo, a sports ambassador. How does that work in terms of how many sport ambassadors do we have right now? Does he replace an outgoing ambassador, or is he added?
Currently, we are adding. We have a lot of other athletes we are looking at to make them sport ambassadors also.
But how many do we have right now?
Supposed to have Brian Lara as one. Yeah. And who? And Samuel Badri. But we will be coming with some others.
All right, and just finally from me, the clause, the law that you all would amend so that the grandchildren of Trinidad and Tobago, so to say, would be eligible to play for Trinidad and Tobago. Is that something we could have done a little sooner, considering that we're so deep into the World Cup qualifying now?
What the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs would have been working on that particular law, and that law had to go through a lot of different channels before it come to Parliament. So it is currently ready and packaged to go to Parliament.
And Akash, this government was not here before. So you're seeing thinking now. Yeah?
Good afternoon, Karen Kuze-Philip from TTT. Minister Alexander, as you mentioned the plans for the Port of Spain prison, what is going to come after? Because naturally that's a landmark. It's been there for over 260 years, as you said. So what are the plans for that facility after the prisoners are relocated?
What I can tell you is this. It might be a museum. It might be a training facility. It might be an environment where young people, a library. It might be a business place. It depends on how we treat with it at the end of the day. But it is prime property. And how we look at it, and I will share this with you. You remember when there was the prison escape in Port of Spain? You remember how traumatized persons were right in Port of Spain? So we're trying to move that kind of environment out of Port of Spain. Because on many occasions when some of these things happen, or even the threats involved, you see the amount of traffic that is difficult for law enforcement to respond sometimes to this area. And it happened the day in question with respect to the shooting or the escape. at the nation's prisons. So it's something that the government is going to look at the end of the day when it's all completed, and then we will know how we're going forward. But a lot of persons would have shared their opinion with us as to, like, this should have been done long ago. Yeah?
Okay, and as for the construction of the new prison, do you have a location, an area? Will the government be consulting residents in the area? How are you going to go about that?
Well, as I said before, we'll continue upgrading the facility at Aruka, maximum security. We'll do some work at the Corona prison, and then there's another area we were looking at. We will not have an issue to treat with persons or neighbors, as the case may be.
Okay, my next question is for Dr. Daulat. Are you at liberty to say where these high-risk schools are, or at least name some of these schools? You said it's 50 secondary schools, which the police officers will be located at?
It's 50 secondary schools where we'll have full-time police officers. Then there'll be an additional 10 secondary schools and 10 primary schools where you'd have routine patrols. And at this point in time, no. We don't want to reveal the list until we implement the system properly and get feedback.
Okay, but school reopens on Monday, which is like 2-3 days away. So would you be revealing that prior to school reopening?
What will happen, we have been in consultation with the schools, with the national PTA, with tutor, and so they have been part of the consultation process. And so they're very much aware. But one of the things we don't want to do is to increase the stigmatization of these schools, all right? Because we want the students, when they go to school, to be in a safe environment. We want to change the way in which they look at these schools, too. Because some students and parents were sometimes afraid to send their children to school because of the violence and things like that. And so we're changing that day by day, week by week, the culture of the school in terms of, and so as we go forward, we will be collecting data, getting feedback, and we will be adjusting our processes to make sure that we can maximize the way in which the students feel more secure in the schools. So it's really about that. And we are hoping eventually, probably in a year or two, that we will not need the police officers in schools if this is successful, as we see it to be.
Okay, as I have you on the microphone, with the budget coming up, are there any plans to adjust the GATE program, seeing that the new term for tertiary level education is about to begin? Because I know the Prime Minister was always against having this means test for GATE and providing free education for all.
That's really a question for the Minister of Tertiary Education, because now the ministry has been divided, and my responsibility is early childhood, primary and secondary. But I'm sure we could pass that message, that question to him, and you'll get a response.
And Minister Alexander, with the police officers going to the schools, do we have enough police officers, especially seeing that we're under a state of emergency? Although I know there was a cadre of SRPs recently, do we have enough police officers to send to the schools and also manpower for the country under a state of emergency?
Yes, the answer is yes. And we continue to tap into the resources of our colleagues in the Defense Force. So in the coming weeks, you will see an addition to what you're accustomed seeing. The Commissioner in his wisdom, Commissioner of Police in his wisdom, would have taken that responsibility to train persons to enter the school system. And only, I think, Monday of this week, we'll have a number of police officers, again, being passing out. There's a passing out parade on Monday, where we have some addition to the staff. And we'll continue to recruit police officers until that gap is no longer present. So the answer is yes.
And these police officers in schools, would they have body cams?
You see, as I said before, we want to be very careful in our approach to the school and the children at the school. This is a place of learning. This is not just any environment you're on patrol. This is a place of learning. There's some young persons there, and we don't want to panic persons to prevent them from learning. We send the police officers to do a particular type of training, so when they enter the school compound, they become mentors and shapers of young men, young women, their minds, etc. They are not just police officers.
So,
Yeah?
so are you saying the body cams would panic the students?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we are not trying to outfit the police too much with things that could cause the students to feel a certain type of way.
And,
all right?
And have they been sufficiently trained in terms of treating with students, including female students, in an environment?
I just said that. Excellent. I think the commissioner must come in for high praise for that with his staff, because he would have, he might have gone way outside the box in terms of his thinking in preparing these police officers for this type of activity that they're about to enter.
And the Minister of Sport, Minister, we just had a CPL leg in Trinidad. There were a number of issues with the media box at the Brian Lara Academy, right? I think you said they're going to deal with some of the issues. But one major issue is traffic and parking anytime there's a big game at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. Is there any plans to deal with these issues?
Well, I will pass that question on to the Minister of Homeland Security.
All right, a good question. It's something we have been looking at for the longest while, and since we entered office, and now we got a first view, real good view of a crowded Brian Lara Stadium. And the police commissioner and persons from traffic management, they are looking to see what other resources might be available, if there's any place they can cut, enter, to see if they could ease the traffic conditions that often takes place when there's a major game down at the Brian Lara. I think it was at the time of the construction of the stadium, they probably didn't expect all of this, and the love that the Trinidadians have, especially for T20 cricket, that they probably wasn't looking at that. So it's something that we will have to look at more deep, and adjustment made with respect to the area to see how best something could be done to ease that traffic condition to and from when the game is over or when it just began.
I'd pose that same question to the former Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, and you said that there was state lands north of the facility. Is that something you can look at in terms of building a car park and things like that?
Well, let me answer this question for you. I don't want to repeat what Dr. Rowley would have said. However, we have looked at particular areas around to see if it could assist in any way with respect to the congestion. So it's something we have to look at detail, and probably look at it when the stadium itself have no activities where we could treat with it. But what happened within recent time, I know they would have marked what was taking place and where the vehicles was parked and all of that. So having said that, the next move is to see if they could treat with that probably as soon as possible.
And to follow up with that, the Minister of Sport, there's a lot of maybe talk that some of the CPL games should have been held at the Queen's Park Oval. Would the government look maybe next year to give some games to the Oval?
Okay. The government doesn't control the games and where the games are played at. CPL will control that.
Cavion John, TTT News. Minister of Homeland Security. My question would be, I know you said that the chamber would have gave you some recommendations and some concerns given this move. What were some, and also could you tell us, like for the average person who may be concerned about how this would affect the 4 phases being ruled out, how it would affect them, what assurance can you give?
The chamber wasn't. All the chambers that we spoke to was in full support. And when you leave here, you can call them or contact them and go, and they will tell you just what I'm saying now. They were in full support of us moving that facility out of Port of Spain. It's an excellent move by the Honorable Prime Minister, Ms. Kamala Prasad Bissessa, and it should have been done a long time ago. However, there's no major impact in the removal. A lot of businesses in close proximity they were showering praises on the mere idea that we were looking to move that facility up to this morning. So you know that there were a number of persons complaining about when the jammers come on and when the jammers come off. Yeah, I know you reporters, you would have get that information of persons close by and all of that. And persons were concerned if there ever was an escape, how they would be, what impact it will have on them. So it's about safety and security. And then the tendency of that area there, you often see persons going and throw things over the wall. Yeah. So, you know, I think we don't want that in our city anymore. So when it is moved, we will treat with that situation, we'll treat with the area and see what best we can put there to the benefit of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Alexander, how would equipping the police officers in schools with body cams make the students feel, as you said, a kind of way? Wouldn't that go further to accountability and things like that?
No, I didn't say that we're not equipping them. I say we don't want to equip the police with equipment that making them feel a certain type of way.
What is that type of way?
All right, let me say something. For those who don't understand, I'm not saying that they're not putting it on. You know, I am not saying that we are not giving them body cams. Let me say this again. I am not saying that we're not giving them body cams. But take a look at this. You have a body cam. It will attract a child because he tells himself it's one of his camera phones that he has. You must try to understand how children think, you know. He would want to take, hey, sir, take a selfie, I mean, you know, so we're trying to avoid all of that. If it is done, it must be done in such a way on the compound.
Okay, so no, that's topic here. So Venezuela's Justice Minister, Diosdado Cabello, he called Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bissessa a drunk.
A what?
A drunk.
Okay.
And we'd like to get a response to that.
I'll call him a madman.
That's it?
Yeah.
I mean, do you find it very offensive that he would refer to this country's prime minister?
Do you find I'm being offensive because I call him a madman?
No, I ask you if you find it very offensive. If you find it, if it's very offensive.
Of course, if you're calling persons names. We don't do that here. But since if he could identify who as that, probably he's either that too, or he's a madman. It would be fair to say, if I say to him, because of what is happening now in the United States, that he's facilitating drugs in his country. Is he a drug pusher? Is he a pimp? So you see where we could go with this. Any more questions?
I just wanted to go back a little bit to the plans for the move to the maximum security prison. You mentioned that the gallows would be rebuilt and so on. And it suggests that we will begin hanging, we will restart hanging soon. Do we have a timeline for something like that?
What I can say to you is, it was never removed from the laws of this land. What I suggest citizens do is try to do the right thing and stop murdering persons. Okay? Because there are times when you might have no choice but to do what the law says with respect to your behavior.
Minister Alexander, in the previous People's Partnership government, an area in Carlsonfield had been identified for a judicial center, namely prison, if you may. Is that being considered as one of the areas for the construction of a new prison?
Well, I could say we probably look at it again to see if it makes logical sense. But we have some areas that have come to our attention.
The Chaguaramas Peninsula, there would be no one objecting.
The Chaguaramas Peninsula?
A prison being built there.
All right, I'll mark it down and I'll take your idea and I will take it back to the relevant authorities.
I was trying to find out if that's under consideration.
Oh, you're making notes. I'll make notes as you say Chaguaramas, right?
Minister of Sport, we do have participation, 3 representatives at the World Track and Field Championships in Tokyo starting next Saturday. Jareem Richards, Keyshawn World Cup, Tyra Gittins in the long jump. Could you state what sort of support was given by the ministry to these athletes and how hopeful are you that it could bring some glory to Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, first let me say I'm quite confident in all our athletes. What I could recall, because the volume of grants come before us and come before me as a minister, I could recall Jareem Richards. We would have given him some funding, yeah. So that's as much as I could say on that. The next athlete you were speaking about, if that athlete would have applied for any grant funding, maybe it's still in the channels coming to the minister.
Minister Alexander, what is the government's response to Venezuela saying that the blowing up of the ship is AI and it's fake news?
That could be coming from someone who I might deem crazy or mad.
All right, thank you, members in the media. Before we close, we have 2 very special occasions coming up, one tomorrow and one Monday. I'd like to invite the Minister of Sport to speak to us about tomorrow.
So tomorrow our national team will be coming up against Curacao in their first game of the final leg of the World Cup. So I want to wish the team well as they go forward in their qualifiers, and I have all confidence that we will be making it to this World Cup. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Watts. And on Monday, the school term reopens. We'd like to invite the Minister of Education to give some remarks on behalf of the government.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister and the government, through the Ministry of Education, I want to say on Monday we want to welcome back all our students from early childhood centers, primary schools, secondary schools. We have been making all provisions. We have been working 24/7 to ensure that school infrastructure is well maintained. We have been collaborating with the Teaching Service Commission to fill as many vacancies as we could. Those vacancies, the filling of those will be ongoing. And I want to say, especially to the parents, that this is an opportunity, a new year, and we are looking forward as our students move to another level or as they enter early childhood or primary or secondary, that this is an opportunity for them to gain the kind of knowledge, the kind of skills that will allow them to go on to become not just employable, but to become good citizens of this country. But as we think about our schools and the issues that we face, we want to ensure that parents and all stakeholders work collaboratively with our principals and our staff and all the support staff, including our school-oriented police officers in those 70 schools to ensure that we improve the safety and the security of our schools. So welcome back to the new term on Monday the 8th.
Thank you very much, Minister. So members of the media, citizens, we thank you for joining us this evening, and we wish you a safe weekend ahead. Thank you very much.
One day I was out playing with